So what if an ally deliberately attacked an American naval ship, and the U.S. government helped cover the whole thing up? It's a pretty explosive claim, right? Well, that's the very heart of Joan Mellen's book, Blood in the Water. Today, we're going to dive into her deep investigation of the really harrowing 1967 attack on the USS Liberty.
You know, to really get a sense of the sheer brutality of that day, June 8, 1967, you have to start with the words of the people who were actually there. This quote from a survivor on the Liberty, well, it sets a truly grim scene for an attack that was really just getting started.
34. That's the number of Americans who were killed during the assault. 31 sailors, 2 Marines, and 1 civilian from the NSA.
And this was the number of Americans wounded. Now think about this. Out of a crew of just 294 people, the vast majority became casualties. I mean, that is just a devastating toll.
Okay, so this first part of our explainer breaks down the attack itself. According to the book, this wasn't some quick accident. Not at all. This was a brutal, systematic, and sustained assault.
So, as Mellen's research lays it out, this attack went on for over an hour. It kicked off with fighter jets strafing the deck. Then came a torpedo that just blew a 40-foot hole in the side of the ship. And for the next 40 minutes, torpedo boats circled the crippled vessel, just raking it with machine gun fire.
And the book argues that the specific things they did, well, they point to a very clear intent: destroy the ship and leave absolutely no witnesses. The jet fighters' hulls were reportedly blackened to hide where they came from. The attackers systematically shot up every single antenna to cut off communications. And get this, as sailors tried to escape, even the life rafts they put in the water were machine gunned to ribbons.
So, this is a crucial point, right? We have to understand what the USS Liberty actually was, and why the official story, that it was all a case of mistaken identity, is so heavily contested in Mellen's book.
The official story claimed the Liberty was mistaken for a small Egyptian ship that was moving at high speed. But according to Mellen's research, the reality was, well, completely different. The Liberty was this big, unique U.S. surveillance ship moving at a slow crawl of just 5 knots and flying a massive American flag.
And this just shows you how incredibly unique the Liberty was. I mean, it was covered with 45 antennas and had this enormous moon dish on top, a one-of-a-kind thing so distinctive that Mellen writes it could have served as a second American flag. With its name painted clearly on the hull, the book argues it was just virtually impossible to misidentify.
Okay, so let's get into the book's central thesis, because this is where it all starts to build. Mellen's research suggests that the attack wasn't just deliberate, but was part of a high-level conspiracy between people inside the US and Israeli governments.
Right. To really get what the book is arguing, we first need to know this key term. A false flag operation is all about deception. It's designed to make an attack look like it was carried out by someone else, usually to provoke a specific reaction.
The book pieces together what it calls Operation Cyanide. The theory basically goes like this. A secret U.S. committee, the 303 Committee, greenlit a plan to get rid of Egyptian President Nasser. So the Liberty was sent in as bait for Israel to sink it. Then the attack would be blamed on Egypt, giving President Johnson the excuse he needed to jump into the Six-Day War on Israel's side.
And Mellen's research puts these very high-level figures right at the center of this whole alleged plot and the cover-up that followed. The book argues President Johnson orchestrated the deception for political gain, while Mossad chief Meir Amit and the really powerful CIA figure James Jesus Angleton were key players making it happen in both Washington and Tel Aviv.
So the brutal attack was just the beginning. The book spends a lot of time on what it says was an immediate, forceful, and ongoing cover-up, one that has lasted for more than 50 years.
Now listen to this. According to testimony in the book, U.S. rescue jets were actually scrambled from nearby aircraft carriers, but they never showed up. An NSA technician claims he personally overheard the order, the voice of the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, telling the American jets to turn back.
The survivors, they were silenced immediately. Mellen documents how they were threatened with court-martial and prison if they ever talked about what they saw. This threat was delivered to a 19-year-old survivor as he was literally lying in a hospital bed, recovering.
And here's the deep irony in all of this. Even while the story was being completely suppressed, the crew of the USS Liberty was being honored. The ship became one of the most decorated for a single engagement in U.S. naval history. We're talking over 200 Purple Hearts plus dozens of other medals for valor.
So what about the official investigation? Well, years later, the court's own legal counsel, Captain Ward Boston, signed an affidavit calling it a complete sham, a process designed from the very beginning not to find the truth, but to bury it.
all of this, it brings us to the central question that the book is posing. Was the attack on the USS Liberty a tragic accident, or was it a profound and calculated betrayal?
For the survivors, this fight is far from over. As their Veterans Association president writes in the book's foreword, they believe the truth was sacrificed for political gain. Their half-century quest is about setting the historical record straight. And this just shows they are not alone in this fight. Decades later, major veterans organizations like the American Legion are still pushing for that official silence to finally be broken. They're demanding the first-ever full congressional investigation into the attack.
And so that's where we end, with the question at the very heart of this entire story. After more than 50 years, after all the evidence and testimony that's come out, why has there never been a full congressional investigation into the attack on the USS Liberty? The book has laid out its case. The final answer, it seems, remains buried.